Thank you, Chair. This covers a number of issues. In the last 12 months, how many overseas trips have been taken by the Murray Darling Basin Authority members of the Murray Darling Basin?
Thank you, Senator. So in the last 12 months, and I may have to also double-check, I believe 2 trips, Senator. One myself, I travelled to France for the International Network of Basin Organisations. International Network of Basin Organisations for their triennial General Assembly, and Tim Goods, Executive Director of Basin Plan, recently travelled to the United States with Colorado River Basin and a series of other meetings, and attend a course at Harvard University. I believe they're the only 2, Senator.
Okay, thank you. Colorado River Basin would be pretty significant.
Indeed, Senator.
Very. Could you please provide details, including cost?
I'll have to take that on notice, Senator.
Of course,
happy to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. My staff would like to compliment your new system view page. Very well done.
Thank you,
Senator.
Senator.
It's excellent. So thank you. When will you be likely to add to the measurement to sea flow to the barrages page?
I don't know off the top of my head, Senator. I'm happy to, again, take that on notice,
sure,
if I may.
Yep. South Australia's water.data export for water of the barrages, which is, I believe, the sea flow totals around 2,200 gigalitres to sea in the last 12 months. Does that seem about right?
Again, Senator, I couldn't speculate, but I'm happy to come back to you in terms of data flows and information.
This is your data, apparently, so just lay there for many pages and totalling 2,201, 600,000, 2,201, 2,201 gigalitres,
Senator,
which
yes.
is a lot of water.
Yes.
From your new and excellent system view page, again, the value of the flow to South Australia over the last 12 months is 3,707 gigalitres. That's from your data, total there.
Yes.
Is that correct?
I wouldn't know off the top of my head, Senator, but I'm happy to confirm that.
Okay, thank you. What is the figure for South Australian flow to guarantee the health of the Murray River through South Australia? And how much must the to-sea flow be to carry out the salt and other pollutants? Well, salt's not a pollutant. Salt and pollutants to keep the river healthy.
Senator, I might ask Jackie Hickey, our Director of River Operations, to come up and address those questions in regards to flows in the barrages, Senator, if I may.
Morning, Senator Roberts.
Morning.
Jackie Hickey, Executive Director of Murray Darling Basin Authority. Can you just repeat your question for me? Yep.
Sure. What is the figure for South Australian flow to guarantee the health of the Murray River through South Australia? And how much must the to-sea flow be to carry out the salt and pollutants and to keep the river healthy? So we're after flow into South Australia and flow into the sea.
Yeah, thanks very much, Senator. So Chapter 8 of our Basin Plan does set out what we think the flow should be over the barrages, and if we can achieve that in a 3-year rolling average for 95% of the time, and that number is about 2,000 gigalitres per year over the barrages, with a minimum
200 gigalitres
per year on a 3-year rolling average for 95% of the time over the long term. So that's set out in the Basin Plan. And then just regarding...
Whereabouts is it again?
That is in Chapter 8, Section 8.13.
8.13. Thank you.
And then regarding your questions that have flows recently to South Australia, so in terms of the 2023-24 water year, the total flow across the SA border was 7,780 gigalitres. And of that, 5,470 gigalitres went across the barrages.
That's over what period?
The 23-24 water year.
1 year?
Yep.
Oh, the floods.
coming off some wet periods, yeah.
Okay. Now, my understanding is that during the last drought, in the debate about the water flows, around about 2019, the figure as to how much is needed to go out to sea to discharge pollutants and salt was about 800 to 1,000 gigalitres. Is that roughly correct?
I'd have to take that one on notice. I don't have with me the figures, the long-term figures for barrage releases.
Okay, thank you. And over the border flows target is about 4,000 gigalitres. That's the top end. Is that about right?
It varies from year to year. The flow to South Australia, as you know, is made up of the SA entitlement flow, which is the consumptive entitlement and the dilution and loss. That's what we have to provide.
That's domestic and irrigators?
It is, yes. It does include it's South Australia's state entitlement, so that includes some water for local environmental uses. And then we also provide environmental water that's been delivered through the system. When additional dilution flows is triggered, then that is also provided if that is not already met through unregulated flows. And then any trade to or from South Australia provides a net adjustment of the total flow across the SA border.
The message I get from you is that it's not simple, it's complex, it's got other factors. But I'm trying to simplify it in a sense. I don't want to mislead anyone, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but my understanding is that the annual inflow to the Murray Darling Basin is about 12,000 gigalitres. And South Australia gets about a third of that, which is 4,000 gigalitres.
I can't answer those numbers, sorry, Senator. I don't have the analysis in front of me.
South Australia is only 1/4 of the basin, so it seems to me that South Australia is getting plenty of water. Now,
said the Queenslander.
My understanding is that during the last drought, as I said, around about 2019, the debate was around a need in South Australia to discharge to the sea 800 to 1,000 gigalitres. We're sending down 2,201 gigalitres to sea. Why are we wasting water? And now the government wants another 450 gigalitres when you have more than enough, Minister.
Senator, I think that your question misunderstands quite a lot about the way the water arrangements work in the basin. So the goal of the Murray Darling Basin plan is to generate a healthy working river and to support farming activities, the communities and the natural environment within the basin area. So your approach looks at a single metric, the amount of water flowing over the barrages, and it makes an assumption that water flowing in the end of the system represents a waste. That's not the way that the scientists tell us that we should manage water in the system. We've got broader goals. We want to see healthy rivers right across the basin, including in the north of the basin. We want to make sure that the systems aren't over-allocated so that irrigators and water users have certainty about what they can use each year. But we also want to make sure that we're not extracting more water out of those systems than can be sustained in the long term from an environmental perspective. Because the truth is that communities and agriculturalists and environmentalists all actually need us to return to some kind of sustainable take out of that system.
Yep, thank you. Just looking at the figures that Mr McConville shared with Mr McConville from the Murray Darling Basin Authority's own data, the flow into South Australia last 12 months, was 3,800 gigalitres, just under 3,777 gigalitres. The flow out of South Australia into the sea is 2,200 gigalitres. So that's about 1,600 gigalitres consumed in South Australia. So that's town water and irrigation is about 400. That leaves about 1,200 for river seepage and evaporation of the lower lakes. That seems like a lot.
I can take that question, Senator, and it would be good maybe we can issue you with some updated numbers. What happens is when we do get the information from our flow recording sites across the basin. Every now and then we do hydrometric updates, and so we do find that there are some adjustments to those figures. So you're talking about the 23-24 water year?
I'm talking about the last 12 months.
Yep, okay. So I've only got it per water year. The flow into South Australia minus the amount that's used for irrigation purposes aligned with South Australians' allocation. Then there is additional inflows that come into the lower part of the River Murray from other small tributary inflows as well.
Is that from the southeast?
No, that is from Mount Lofty Ranges and sort of other local catchment areas. Obviously, when the lakes are higher, there is more evaporation loss, but wind and temperature do play a big factor in evaporation losses at the lakes.
Senator Roberts, we're going to need to rotate the call.